Welcome to SaaS-Story in the Making, the podcast that features the people who made the software world what it is today and the leaders who are shaping the future of technology. Here's your host, Matt Wolach.
Okay, I have some questions for you. I want to know if you understand how important it is to be a connected company and what even is a connected company. I also want to know, how do you scale from 10 to $100 million? If you're interested in scaling and not just getting a little bit, but actually taking a 10x growth, 10 million to 100 million, we are going to talk about some strategies for that today. I am delighted to be joined by my special guest, David Hart. David, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you. Let me tell you all a little bit about David so you know why he's here and a little bit of his expertise. David is the co-founder and COO of Screencloud. Now, this is a digital signage company. This is a really, really cool deal what they're doing. Really what it is they allow businesses to really easily control what shows on their digital signage and their TV screens around their office. I know you've seen those out and about, and you may even have those. So I'm interested to learn more about what they're doing. He's also the founder of Cogent and previously the co-founder of Tepelo.com. So David, once again, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me what's been going on with you lately and what's coming up?
Well, yeah, I mean, COVID was has been an interesting period for us, given that a lot of our customers use screens on walls in offices. But we haven't done too badly. We obviously felt it a little bit, but we kind of managed to kind of weather the storm, and we're out the other side now, and seeing growth coming back, which is really, really good. So we're kind of really pumped for 2021. We've done a lot of hiring, a lot of senior hires into the VP layer, just really kind of getting ready for sort of things exploding again in 2021.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, how did you come up with this idea for Screencloud? And can you explain a little bit about what it does?
Yeah, well, originally, so the three of us that founded the company, we used to have an agency, a digital marketing agency, and we wanted to put our key metrics up on the screen in a studio for everyone to see. So it's that kind of monthly, like, how are we doing against budget, that kind of thing. Sure. And we just couldn't really work out a good way to do it other than spending loads of money on kind of buying proprietary hardware and things like that. So Luke, our CTO, said, I'll just hack something over the weekend. And then he looked into it and he thought, actually, this is a bit more complicated, or it could be a bit more complicated than I thought. And then from there, that was a sort of nascent product that came out. And as an agency, although we were working for clients, we were constantly doing side projects. And this originally was just another side project that sort of seemed to really resonate with people we talked about. So like quite often when we said, oh, we've got this little product, people go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But when we talked about Screencloud, they were like, oh, that's like when that's done, we need that. That's exactly what we need. And so we kind of like, oh yeah, there's definitely something here. And then, obviously jump forward a bit, we kind of realized that if we wanted this to ever become the big thing, it had to become the main project. It couldn't be a side project. So we took the decision that we were going to focus all of our efforts into this and sell our agency and get out of our other sort of side projects and stuff like that. So that's how it came about. And I mean, predominantly.
And I love that you just jumped in full bore, like sell the agency. We're going all in on this thing. I love that.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it obviously took a little bit of time. There was a process of us coming to terms with that. Like this has been the thing. This has been the thing that's been paying our mortgages and feeding our families for the last, I guess it was probably 10, 12 years at that point. Do we really want to sell it and get out of it and put everything into this new project? But I think we decided probably around the 10-year mark that we'd had enough of clients and we just wanted to do product. It was in our veins. And so, yeah, that wasn't a hard decision. But I think, the process then of going from actually saying, right, we're going to get rid of this agency and then actually doing it and selling it and trying to sell a company where the three founders weren't going to go with it. That was especially difficult, but it was. I mean, that's a whole story. But yeah, I think we kind of fantasized a little bit that we could probably do all these things on the side and have a portfolio of side projects that would magically become something big overnight or down the line. And then I think we just realized, come on guys, we're just fooling ourselves here. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of focus to get anything off the ground properly and give it the best chance it has. So yeah, that's what we decided to do.
It really does. I love that you said that. It really does take a tremendous amount of focus, tremendous amount of effort, and people pushing all in the right direction to get a SaaS company off the ground. But I love the story of you went from a marketing agency and became a SaaS company, because when you're an agency, and I'm surprised, I talk with a lot of SaaS founders every year. I'm surprised at how many came from a digital agency, because it's something that you're spending a lot of time on your clients. It's really intensive. You're really doing a lot of work, but you see SaaS, and SaaS is beautiful because it can scale. Once you put in that effort, and once you develop a company and get the right frameworks, the right processes, a great product, now it's just a matter of scaling. It scales much, much more easily. So I think that's kind of something that people see as an opportunity to get into the SaaS world. That's the beauty of SaaS.
Yeah. And so often I see people who were doing what we were doing, which was like, they're trying to sort of, spread the risk and say, well, we'll try a bit of this and we'll try a bit of that. And maybe we can, and actually we did that a few times, and we got some reasonable products. They maybe peaked at about $25,000, $30,000 a month. And then that's it. They plateaued. And the reason was because we weren't thinking about it in the right way. We were thinking, we've done all the work and now we'll just sit back and wait for that cash to come in. We weren't really investing any money or time or effort into it. It was a scary time. It was a scary thing to actually sort of admit to ourselves, but it was one of the best things we ever did, I think. Because the other thing I think is at one point we were about to, earlier on, someone approached us to buy the agency, and not really understanding much about the VC world or valuations or anything like that. I think we were all a bit surprised at how little we would get for all of our efforts, and that's a problem. We didn't have any retained customers, and there was that certain sense of like, well, what are we actually building of long-term value here? And actually, it's tough. But conversely, I think we sold our first apps business. We created a suite of kids apps. And we sold it to a PE company, and it was like, wow, that was a multiple of several times the monthly recurring revenue it wasn't really recurring, but the monthly revenue we were getting through the App Store. And we just sort of saw like there's so much more in terms of the value that we could build if we just focused on creating a product.
It's pretty fun how that works. So, Screencloud is really interesting. I love it. I went through your website. What are some of the most unique ways businesses are using this? What are some of the best practices that's really helping businesses move forward?
Yeah, well, I think this is another interesting thing. So we came to this from a purely software perspective into an industry that was really dominated by hardware vendors. And we were like, actually, we don't really care about hardware. We just want to create great software. And actually, I think what we didn't realize is that effectively the industry was largely about just putting things on the wall, like JPEGs and videos. It's kind of like a bit like a poster, but it appears on a screen. Mm-hmm. And we came at it a lot more from like, well, actually, look, this is a medium that's actually really useful. It's a way of surfacing the really important content. It's almost like the visual layer of your business. If you think about it in those terms, and the best things that we're seeing people do is like that. And you mentioned at the beginning about connected company. It's if you can show content and the right content, you can surface it in the right way to the right people at the right time. How does that connect your company, and why does that matter? So let's say you're a deskless workers, and by the way, 80% of the world's workforce is deskless, i.e. they're not sat in front of a computer.
Wow.
But only about 1%, I guess I'm making this one up, but it's a tiny percent of VC investment goes towards software that is for a deskless workforce. Now, I'm not saying Screencloud is entirely for a deskless workforce, but you can see if you're a chemical engineer, for example, you can't chemically engineer from home. You're not sat in front of a computer all day, but you still need to see key metrics. And so that's where Screen's really good. And what we've seen is just being able to, these people are quite often are disconnected because they're not on Slack, they're not getting all that banter, and they're kind of disconnected from each other, but also from the customer, from the end customer. Now, if you can kind of if you can show content that would make those people feel more aligned with maybe the company values, maybe they're kind of seeing how they're doing against other teams or other peers, but also they might have more of an understanding about what they're actually doing for the customer. Maybe they actually see who their end customer is. That connectivity has a really big impact on productivity, on compliance, on kind of reducing turnover. And there was one company that we had, they just introduced screens to show performance metrics for a team that was, I won't say who the customer is, but they were basically, I guess, working in a warehouse. It wasn't super manual. It was quite technical, but effectively working in a warehouse. And they saw, just by showing these performance metrics, they saw productivity double within about 2 or 3 months, and they were expecting it to triple within another 3 or 4 months. So wow. And all that is doing is just connect. It's just making those connections. That data already exists, but how can you use something like Screencloud to smartly surface that content at the right time and the right people to the right people? And we're playing with different ideas about this. There's like, one is, as I say, the visual layer of your business, but a kind of nice go-to phrase we're using is company TV. And actually, if you think about it in those terms, talking to a company and saying, "Hey, do you want to put your social media up on a screen in the lobby?" That's kind of like, yeah, go and talk to facilities management; they'll deal with that. But having a conversation along the lines of, well, how about your company name TV, and it's all the data and all the content that you already have, but it's servicing it in a smart, intelligent, and relevant way.
Love it.
To show a visual. Yeah, so that kind of resonates. It's a different type of conversation, and it moves it so far away from digital signage, the digital signage industry that we entered, which was, as I say, it was, I want to put a JPEG up on a screen somewhere, and it's a poster or it's an advert or something like that.
Well, I think it's beautiful because I've running sales teams, having a scoreboard is huge. And I preach to my clients, make sure you have a scoreboard, make sure it's something that people can see. I, being old school, had a whiteboard that I would write things down on and constantly have to update it. And sometimes we forget to update it and the numbers would be wrong. So I love the idea of a digital signage screen that actually just keeps everything updated. It's beautiful. And I mean, this is not a new idea, folks. Having a scoreboard, having this information definitely increases productivity. I go back to the old story of, and I'm going to butcher who it was, Dale Carnegie's book, How to Influence People, all that. That's really, really awesome. In the book, there's a story about, there's a steel mill. And at the steel mill, the steel owner was really upset that he didn't think that the production was very strong. And so he asked the day crew how many steel reams or whatever it is. I'm definitely butchering. I don't know steel well, but how many steel rolls they created that day. And they said 6. And so he took a piece of chalk and wrote a big 6 on the floor and walked away. And they were like, what? And then they left, and the night shift came. And when the night shift came, they saw a big 6. And said, what is that 6? Oh, that's how many the day shift did.
Yeah.
And so guess what? 7 were produced by the night shift that time because they beat it. They scratched out the 6, wrote a 7. The day shift saw that the night shift had done a 7, and they produced 10. So they went from 6 to 10 in the matter of a day just because there was a scoreboard, a very rudimentary scoreboard with chalk on the ground, but at least that. And so I've always seen the benefit of having scoreboards. I think this is huge what you're doing at Screencloud, because I'm sure that type of productivity increase is all over the place for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I always liken it back to when you're a small company, when you're a startup, everybody knows everything almost through osmosis. Doesn't matter if you're the most junior person, the conversations the CEO's having with the bank or the difficult customer or the problem with supplier. When you get bigger, you get more and more siloed. And actually, what that example there, you would know like how you did last week, and you'd want to beat last week or whatever you were kind of measuring yourself by. Yeah. So what would be great if we can use technology in a smart way that kind of makes it feel like you're connected in the way that you were when you're a small company, then that can only be a good thing, I think, and that's what we're hoping to do with Screencloud. Yeah,
I totally agree. I mean, I'm super impressed with what you guys have done so far. You guys have grown to a good number, 9 or 10 million. And now that you've passed that kind of initial startup phase, David, you've gotten to a point where you're really starting to grow. You're hitting your growth phase. How do you see yourselves going from that 9 or 10 million mark to 100 million? Because I think that's a big step that somebody running a company said, okay, I got from 1 million to 10 million. Now, how do I go from 10 million to 100 million? How do you see that playing out for you? What are your strategies?
Yeah, so I guess it's probably worth just saying when we first started, we assumed this was going to be an SMB play because we were kind of we kind of got in on the coattails of the media players that were emerging, like Chromecast and Amazon Fire TV sticks and things like that. Mm-hmm. And we were saying, actually, you don't need this big, expensive proprietary hardware. You can just buy consumer hardware and we'll just sit neatly on top of that. So we assumed that would be appealing, and it has been, I have to say. But we also found larger companies kind of knocking on our door, going, "We really love this. Like, how do we do this? And can we use higher grade higher grade media players?" And we're like, yeah, you can sit across all of these systems, and then our investors also pointed out, like, guys, if you're going to try and grow like this, you're going to peak, you're going to plateau, and it's probably going to be around somewhere between 8 and 12 million. Well, in our experience, that's where you're going to start to plateau. And getting to $100 million, if you're only charging, say, $1,000 a year, that's a lot of heavy lifting. But obviously, if you're charging $1 million a year subscription, then it's I'm not saying it's easier, but you have to obviously win a lot less customers. So, we took the decision 2 or 3 years ago that we really needed to work this out, and that started. Everyone said we were crazy, but we decided to rebuild the platform, the product from the ground up, which has been very, very painful, but it kind of needed to be done. One of the things that we were thinking about improved security, building things like a GraphQL API, so developers from our customers could create their own apps that sit on top of our platform. So the first thing that we had to do was product. But what we're really doing now, I guess, we're going through that process of, if you read Impossible to Inevitable by Aaron Ross and Jason Lemkin, the first chapter is about nailing your niche, and that's exactly what we're doing. We looked at our customers and said, well, look, who are the most easiest customers to sell to? Like, who are the customers that just go, yeah, I just need that, and I need that the higher tier as well. I need to spend more per screen than other things because I need all those features. And what we realized that actually high tech manufacturing and engineering, especially because they have a lot of deskless workers, because I said earlier, chemical engineering, you're generally kind of working with chemicals. You're not just looking at a desk. And secondly, they also are, I guess, less impacted by COVID because, as I said, you can't chemically engineer from home. You have to go into an office or a laboratory or something. But we've just found that, generally speaking, there's way less friction. They're really keen to expand, virtually never churn that group. So we kind of decided upon that as our ICP, our ideal customer profile. And so really then our efforts now, we're thinking about the business in two different ways. We've got the machine at the moment that works well for the kind of smaller, largely self-serve, light touch customers, and we're continuing to finesse that, but that's pretty good. We've got that pretty well under control. We've got our cost per acquisitions right down. We can. They're more likely to churn, but we can manage that churn. We can anticipate that churn, and we can try and mitigate it. And then this other group, which is where we see our growth coming from, we're still going to grow these smaller companies, but it's really going upstream to these bigger enterprise customers. That's where the growth is going to come from. And what we're seeing is over time, the proportion of our revenue is coming from these bigger customers. But yeah, so really the kind of experimentation and the kind of learning, and as I said earlier, we've hired some senior people who have got experience of scaling in that area, and typically we've looked for people who've kind of done it before, so not necessarily got to 100 million, but certainly got considerably further than 10 million. And so it's really now about how do we absolutely nail that niche, to coin a phrase. How do we understand more and more about this customer? Like, we know that they want to put secure dashboards up on the screen. That seems to be a thing that's universal. And secure is a key thing there. So we've done a lot of work on how do you get something like a business information system like Tableau. How do you open that up and put it up on a screen without basically opening it up to the world? So we've got a really smart, secure way of doing that, which means that even if someone pulls the media player out the back of the screen and takes it home, they can't ever get access to the database. So yeah, that's taken a long time to build that. But although we know that they want to do that, we need to know more. We need to understand what the real pain point is. Is it why do they need that thing? Is it about productivity? Is it about compliance? Is it about an early warning system? These are all the different things that we've heard from our customers. So, a lot of learning, a lot of sort of founder outreach as well. This is one of the things that I've kind of been surprised. As you hire more people, you kind of think as founders, you don't have to do the dirty work anymore. But I think when it comes to this sort of thing, it absolutely has to be founders hustling, using their networks. Can you introduce me to this person? Can you introduce me to that person? Even if you're not actually ultimately selling, but it's about learning. It's about really sort of saying, I need to get inside these heads of these engineering companies, these manufacturing companies, and understand why they need to show this data. What's hurting them, and what does this data actually solve for them? So yeah, that's really about how we're doing it. I think it's there's no silver bullet. It's just hustle, keep going, make sure never accept that you kind of think you know it because you probably don't. I mean, unless you've literally worked in that industry for 10 years, it's just constant learning and doing as much as we can really to find out as much as we can about those customers.
Yeah, I love it. There's so many things that you said in there are such gold. So I hope everybody goes back and kind of replays what you said. One of the things I really like is, hey, there's other people who have done this. Let's hire them. Let's get them on the team. Let's get them as advisors, and let's have them help us get there. Tony Robbins says the quickest path to success is to find what someone else has done well and model off of that. So why not use somebody who has already done it? A lot of my clients, when they start with me, they say, hey, you've done this before. We want that. Just show us what to do. And it just makes it so much easier than just trying to bang your head against the wall, trial and error this, try that, try that. It's so much more difficult when you do it that way. So I love that you said that. It's really critical.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends whether people feel they've got time to learn on the job, and we just don't. I mean, we're all under pressure to grow. Like if we don't kind of win this race, someone else is going to win it. If we, as I say, we're kind of maybe moving towards a kind of new category or subcategory, which is more around this kind of customer TV thing. I think we as founders, you quickly reach your extremes of your experience and your expertise, and you can hire kind of junior people who are you think, oh, they've got loads of potential and they can grow into the job, but then they're only going to be as good as you, and you don't know everything. So yeah, if you can find someone who said, like I was interviewing someone the other day for a product marketing role, and she's brilliant. She said, look, I joined my current company when they were your size, and now we're 4 times as big as you. And in that time, I've grown my career as well. And what I really want to do is now, knowing everything I know now, is basically go back to the beginning and do it with a new company. And that is absolute gold dust. And it's part of the reason why, as a British company, I'm planning to move. Well, I should have been already moved to America. We've got our sales team and marketing team are kind of largely based in America. Most of our customers are based in America. But actually, I found for those types of roles, they're easier to recruit in the US because there's more companies that have literally done that. There's plenty of people in the UK that have got great experience and are working in SaaS, but fewer who've actually then, in 5 years' time in the UK, it'll be fine. But right now, you want those people that have done that and have already kind of scaled beyond where you are now. And that, as you get bigger, that pool becomes smaller. But I think just in our experience, whenever we've done that, it might cost a bit more, and often you're paying people more than you're paying yourself. But man, it's really worth it. You just get to go so much faster, and you avoid the rookie mistakes that you probably would have made, and you would have had to learn from, and all those sorts of things.
So true. Avoiding those mistakes is absolutely critical. And when you get bigger, the mistakes get more impactful in many ways. So, and I love you said, sometimes you're paying people more than you pay yourself. Hey, as a leader, you have to understand that. You have to realize that if we're going to get to where we need to go, to where we've laid out, this is our goal, we've got to get there. You might have to bring in an expert that might cost a little bit more. And you have to get over your ego of, hey, they might make more than you at this point, knowing that you're in it for the long game, that you've got a huge potential down the road if something great happens. The other thing that you said that I really liked is, if we don't scale now, somebody else is going to come behind us and do it and take over.
Yeah.
And this is so important for software founders to remember, because I was actually in a discussion online with somebody a week or two ago, and they said, well, why don't maybe they just want to be nice and easy in a lifestyle business. And I said, well, that's nice. You can definitely do that. If that's what you want, just to kind of have a steady stream of income, not really put a lot of work in, that's fine. I'm telling you, in the software SaaS world, that is very difficult. And the reason being is because the barrier to entry has become lower and lower. Anybody can hire a dev firm. Anybody can recruit some developers and go out and create some product, such that barrier to entry means other people, if they see something happening that's a potential market that they can attack, they're going to create an opportunity to get themselves into that market and accelerate. And so if you're just kind of la-di-da, guess what? Somebody's going to come up behind you and take your market from you. So in SaaS, it's absolutely critical to scale, to get some growth and stay ahead of everybody else out there.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it. So when we first came in, we were probably the first, company that was doing digital signage on consumer hardware, on the Amazon Fire TVs. That's because they'd only just come out, and everyone else before us had their own things. But now there's been loads of copycats, and they're undercutting us price-wise and that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think, from what we know from our customers, they're not as robust, the features aren't as good, that kind of thing. But if you stand still, they're going to catch up with you, and that's another reason really why we need to go upstream and really think about. I mean, we've had a mindset from kind of moving from units towards value. So we were selling screens to start with, and now we're selling a kind of sort of more of a kind of package of screens and services, professional services, and that kind of thing. So it's more about the value that we create for customers rather than how much is this going to cost per screen, which is where we started. And that's fine. As you say, that you could have a very nice business doing that. Whether that how long that would last for before someone came and ate you up, I don't know. But there is clearly going to be there's people who want to sort of pay for that type of service. But for us, it's not where we want to be. We kind of see there's a much bigger game here, a much bigger play. And the other thing is, there isn't really a brand in digital signage. There's not a MailChimp or a Salesforce or a Zendesk for digital signage. I think we think someone's going to own that mantle, and we'd quite like it to be us.
No better person than you, David. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. I think that everybody out there, I hope they've learned something as well. So this has been really great to get to know what you guys are doing at Screencloud. How can everybody understand or learn more about you and Screencloud?
Yeah, well, obviously come to our site. So screencloud.com or screencloud.io. Or you can hit me up on Twitter at David Hart, or just David at screencloud.io. Always happy to chat about this kind of stuff. It's especially, I particularly, even though we're at 10 million, I particularly love this. I think the early bit from 0 to a million is particularly difficult. And I think, I'm sort of, unofficially mentoring a few companies that are in that area, because I just think it's a fun time, but it's also uniquely difficult as well. So I'm always happy to chat about anything like that. It's endlessly interesting and fascinating for me.
Me likewise. I have a lot of companies that I'm working with in that range too. It's just super fun. For me, when I was building my companies to that point, that's a really fun time to go from 0 to 1 million. Because you learn so much, you understand your market so well, and it's just a fun time to grow a team.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, cool, David. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For everybody else out there, make sure you're subscribing to SaaS-Story in the Making. We're always putting out phenomenal content. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for coming this time, and I will see you next week. Take care.